Imagine this for a second. You walk into a car dealership just to look around, nothing serious, just browsing. 30 minutes later, you're sitting at a desk with a salesperson, nodding slowly while they slide a paper across the table. Good news, they say with a smile. Your payment will only be $498 a month. And in that moment, something interesting happens. Your brain doesn't ask, how much is this car actually costing me? Instead, it asks something much smaller. Can I afford $498 a month? If the answer feels like yes, the deal suddenly feels reasonable. You drive off the lot feeling successful. New car smell, shiny dashboard, smooth ride home. It feels like progress. But a few months later, something else creeps in. The payment still shows up every single month. And suddenly that number, $498, starts showing up in places you didn't expect. It shows up when rent increases. It shows up when groceries cost more. It shows up when an emergency happens. And slowly, quietly, you start realizing something most people never talk about. That car payment wasn't just a purchase. It was a financial commitment that quietly reshapes your entire life. Not because cars are bad, not because owning a vehicle is irresponsible, but because the way car payments are structured changes how you think about money in ways most people never notice. Today, we're breaking down the car payment trap nobody talks about. And if you've ever wondered why so many people earning good incomes still feel financially stuck, this conversation might connect a few dots. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the monthly car payment model tricks your brain, how interest, depreciation, and financing quietly multiply the true cost of vehicles, why car payments keep millions of people living paycheck to paycheck, and how thinking differently about cars can dramatically change your financial trajectory. This isn't about judging anyone who has a car payment. Most people do. This is about understanding the math behind the decision, because once you see how the numbers actually work, you start making very different choices. And if you enjoy videos that break down everyday financial decisions like this in simple terms, consider subscribing. This channel is all about making money make more sense. All right, let's start with the first part of the trap, the monthly payment illusion. Car dealerships almost never start by asking what car you want. They ask something much more strategic. What monthly payment are you comfortable with? That single question reframes the entire purchase. Instead of focusing on the price of the car, your brain begins focusing on the size of the payment. And payments are easy to manipulate. A dealer can lower a monthly payment by stretching the loan longer, 5 years, 6 years, sometimes even 7 years. So suddenly a $40,000 car doesn't feel like $40,000 anymore. It feels like $520 a month, which feels manageable. But the longer the loan stretches, the more interest quietly accumulates, and that's where the real story begins. The next one is the interest multiplier. Let's imagine a simple example. You finance a $35,000 car. The loan is 6 years at 7% interest. Your monthly payment lands around $600 per month. Over 6 years, you'll pay roughly $43,000 total. That means roughly $8,000 disappears into interest alone. And that's assuming a good interest rate. Many people pay far more. But here's the part that really surprises people. While you're paying interest, the car itself is doing the opposite. It's losing value, which leads us to the next part of the trap. Let's consider the depreciation problem. Cars are what economists call rapidly depreciating assets. In simple terms, they lose value fast. A brand new car can lose 20% of its value in the first year alone, and roughly 50% within 5 years. That means while you're paying interest on the loan, the thing you borrowed money for is becoming less valuable every single day. Imagine borrowing money to buy something that is guaranteed to shrink in value. That's essentially what a financed car is. Now again, this doesn't mean cars are bad purchases. Transportation is necessary. But financing expensive cars creates a strange financial dynamic. You're paying interest on something losing value, which means your wealth is shrinking from both directions. Next, the lifestyle anchor. Here's where the trap becomes psychological. Once you commit to a large car payment, it starts influencing other financial decisions. You may hesitate to change jobs because the payment needs to be covered. You may delay investing because the payment takes priority. You may avoid financial risks that could improve your life because that monthly obligation sits there, quietly in the background. It becomes what economists sometimes call a fixed lifestyle anchor, a number that must be paid every month, no matter what. And over time, those fixed payments limit flexibility. If you enjoy understanding how everyday financial habits shape your life like this, feel free to subscribe. We explore these hidden patterns all the time here. Another factor is the normalization effect. Another reason the car payment trap spreads so easily is simple. It's normalized. Look around almost any parking lot. You'll see rows of cars worth $30,000, $40,000, sometimes $60,000 or more, and most of them are financed. In fact, the average car payment in the United States recently crossed $700 per month for new vehicles. When everyone around you seems to have a payment, it stops feeling unusual. It feels like the default. But normal doesn't always mean financially healthy. Sometimes it just means widely accepted. Next is the opportunity cost nobody calculates. Here's where the math gets really interesting. Let's imagine that $600 monthly car payment again. If instead that $600 were invested monthly in a simple index fund, averaging 8% per year, over 10 years, that could grow to roughly $110,000. Over 20 years, it could exceed $350,000. Now, of course, you still need transportation, but the difference between a $15,000 used car and a $45,000 financed car could represent hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Not because cars are evil, but because compound interest works both ways. It can grow wealth, or it can grow payments. And then the upgrade cycle. Another reason people stay trapped in car payments is the upgrade cycle. Many people trade in vehicles before the loan is even fully paid off. The remaining balance gets rolled into the next loan, which means the new car starts with negative equity. Now you're financing yesterday's car inside today's car loan. Dealerships make this process incredibly smooth. It feels easy. But financially, it can keep people in a permanent payment loop. 5 years, 6 years, another trade-in, another loan, another cycle. And if this kind of financial breakdown is interesting to you, subscribing helps you catch more conversations like this in the future. The status factor is another point to consider. Cars are also deeply tied to identity. For many people, vehicles signal success. They show progress, achievement, hard work paying off. There's nothing wrong with enjoying nice things, but the danger appears when status purchases are financed in ways that slow down long-term wealth building. Because the truth is something most wealthy people quietly understand. Real financial freedom usually comes from owning appreciating assets, not financing depreciating ones. Finally, the alternative way to think. So what's the alternative? It isn't necessarily driving the cheapest possible car forever. It's thinking about vehicles through a slightly different lens. Instead of asking, "What car do I want?" you might ask, "What level of transportation supports my life without slowing down my financial future?" For some people, that means buying reliable used cars. For others, it means keeping vehicles longer. For some, it simply means avoiding the endless upgrade cycle. Small decisions like these compound dramatically over time. The biggest financial traps are rarely obvious. They're subtle. They feel normal. They fit neatly into everyday life. And car payments are one of the most common examples. Because a few $100s per month doesn't sound like much, but over decades, those payments quietly redirect hundreds of thousands of dollars. Which is why understanding this trap isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Because once you see the math clearly, you gain the power to choose differently. If you're enjoying this kind of perspective on money and everyday decisions, you might enjoy the other videos on this channel too. We know that this video has changed the way you think about car payments even a little bit, so consider subscribing for more breakdowns like this. Because every week, we explore the hidden mechanics behind money, wealth, and everyday financial decisions. So tell me, what's the most expensive car payment you've seen someone take on?
or maybe even one you've had yourself. Drop it in the comments, because sometimes the first step towards smarter financial decisions is simply seeing the numbers clearly for the first time.